Hello. I just wanted to make sort of a follow-up video from the one that I posted yesterday about budgeting and allocating your money to different accounts so that you can manage your money better and get on a fast track or a better track to becoming more financially secure. So I left a couple of details out that wanted to just take some time and put up. So first, I just wanted to point out that you can take and use the different account setup that I explained in the last video. You can, play with the percentages of each dollar that you make, how much you want to put into each account. I just do the 50, 20, and then 10, 10, 10 setup because that's what, makes sense for me, and I'm able to, budget effectively on my essentials account so that, I can fit the lifestyle that I want to live within that essentials account. So there's nothing wrong with, if you want to give more of your earnings to charity or whatever, you can, throw 15% into your charity account instead of 10. Um, I just use 10 for that account just because it's the 10% tithing rule, is where it came from. And, that's just sort of what I'm comfortable with myself. So that's just what I've always done. And as far as the investments account, I put 20% into that account. Some people probably only put 10 to 15% into that account. The reason why I put 20% is because um, I feel that really, it's more important to invest in yourself and invest in, different opportunities so that you can increase your income. Because as I mentioned in the last video, that's one of the two ways that you're gonna climb the socioeconomic ladder and better your financial situation is by increasing your income. So the more money that you put towards that, the more that you're going to get a return, ideally. So that's why I put 20% that towards that account. Um, if you only want to put 10 and then put maybe 60% into your essentials account or whatever you want to do, you can play with those numbers. But 50, 20, 10, 10, 10 is what, works for me. And, that's just what I roll with. And then on top of that, the other thing that I wanted to touch on was um, with the essentials account, being that that's got all of my, living, uh, car payment and stuff like that, groceries, other, living expenses in it, that is what I actually make my budget on every month. I don't make a budget on my yearly income or, take my yearly income, divide it by 12, and that's what my monthly spend budget is because it's not the case if you're allocating your money to these different accounts. Your monthly budget should be, um, reflective of your essentials account because that's where you're going to want to track how much am I spending on groceries every month, how much am I spending on haircuts and other personal care items, how much am I spending on household items, things of that nature. So that's the essentials account is what you want to, if you're going to budget yourself every month, that's what you're going to want to connect your budget with is your essentials account. And that's just what I do. So hope those two answers might help you with a couple questions that popped into your head in the last video. If you have any other questions, obviously you can ask me. Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to uh, dive into the reason why I'm making this video today, and that is because, as I mentioned in the last video, I am transitioning into a new job that is involving sales. Um, and I was just reading a book today. I've actually had this book for a few months, and I was just rereading it just to refresh my mind. And I came across a really great concept out of this book that I think if you're in any sales position, it would be really beneficial for you to have this in your back pocket. And I can, if you want to know the name of the book, I can put that, in the description as well or whatever. Just ask me for it and I can supply that for you. It's actually called The Science of Selling, and it's by David Hoffeld. If you wanted to go, pick that up. Um, Yeah, it's an excellent book. Probably my favorite sales book out there, because it matches with the 21st century style of sales. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on quick the concept that I was talking about for anybody that's in sales that might want to step up their sales game. So this book really focuses on connecting the salesperson with uh, how the buyer is going to make a buying decision. So it's it focuses on the science of selling in that it analyzes how people are wired in their brains to uh, say, yes, I want to buy this thing. There's a process that your brain goes through in order to make that final decision of, yes, I want to buy. And science has uncovered that for us. And this book basically breaks down that process that the brain goes through to make that buying decision, and it tries to connect the salesperson, me or you, to that buying decision process. So it's sort of a six-step process that you have to walk your buyer through in order for them to say yes to your product at the end. And it's a step-by-step process, and it has to happen in linear fashion. Otherwise, that's where objections come from. So an objection is basically your buyer isn't sold or isn't convinced about one of these six steps. So I'll just go through them here quick. The first one is why change, and they're called the six whys. So the first one is why change, and that is the biggest um, why that you have to tackle. And if you don't tackle it, you're going to fail every single time. Why change is very powerful because people have a natural inclination to uh, stay complacent with where they are as long as things are going okay, right? People don't want to change. Um, People are, change averse, I guess you could say. They would rather just stay where they are and not do anything about it as long as they can get by doing what they're already doing because there's less risk associated with that. So you want to figure out why your buyer should change. And this is going to involve asking questions of your buyer to figure out where are some pain points, where are some shortcomings that your buyer is experiencing, and you need to help them understand that these things are costing them something, right? These things are costing them revenue, they're costing them time, freedom, whatever the case may be. It's costing them something, and you have to not only uncover that need, but you have to um, make that need sort of painful, and not in a physical sense, but you have to bring up why why it's even important that this thing be solved, right? So that's the first one. Why change? The next one is why now? So uh, this one is really step two. It's really important because you can, talk to your buyer till you're blue in the face about all these things that your product or service is going to give to them that they don't already have, and it's going to help their situation out, and that's perfect. But if you can't articulate with them why they should change now instead of just waiting, you know, next week, next year, you know, whenever, they have to realize that change is necessary now. So you have to figure out a way that creates a little bit of urgency in their mind. Um, and there's a way to do this. Um, it's called fear of loss. This is really powerful. I'm sure you've heard of this if you're involved in sales. Fear of loss is one of those things where our brain doesn't like to lose things. We would rather not lose something than gain something. So, if you can incorporate fear of loss into this why now step, then you're probably going to be successful in overcoming and answering that question of why should I change now, right? So that's just one way, but I don't want to get into too much detail. You just have to figure out a way to explain to your buyer why it's important to move forward now rather than wait. So however that happens is, up to you and your sales process, but either way it's got to be done, otherwise the sale is going to fall through. And the next one is, why should they work with you? Why should they work with your company, basically? So there's a little bit of overlap in this step and one of them that I'm going to touch on later, but this one is focusing on basically why should they work with you and not just do it themselves. So it's important that you point out to your buyers that, if there's a possibility that they could just skip you and your company, not pay you anything, and just go figure out how to do it on their own, that why wouldn't they do that? It's going to save them money, right? So you have to explain and demonstrate how you and your company are going to provide them so much value, and that is going to lead them to thinking, hey, I need to work with this person or this company if I want to do this. I can't just do it myself. So that's the third why, is basically, why do I need you? Why can't I just do it myself? Okay, so you have to, think of a reason that is going to compel them to thinking that they need your help in this, whatever the situation is or whatever product or service you're selling. The next one is why you and your company. So this one is sort of where it overlaps a little bit. You have to, this is where I guess your experience and your expertise and your knowledge comes in. So why you and your company is basically, you know, if you're not even an expert and you don't know what you're talking about and you don't know your product and you don't know how it's going to help them, then it's obvious that they don't need you. They can go find somebody else that does, right? So you have to demonstrate your expertise to them, and you have to answer why should they work with you rather than somebody else, right? You have to, communicate confidence and, expertise in what you're doing. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense for them to work with you. They could just go work with somebody else that knows what they're talking about. And then the fifth why is why your product or service. So this is sort of more internal within your company or whatever product or service you're selling, because there's different ways that are going to set you apart from everybody else and answer this why you or your product or service question. So the first one is, if you're cheaper than everybody else, then obviously that's a why should I buy your product or service, because you're cheaper. If your product or service is different in some way, which is really an essential part of sales these days, it's very difficult to take a product or service to the market these days that isn't different in some way, that doesn't provide, some sort of unique value. The marketplace is just too saturated now, where if you don't have something that's different and better than your competition, no one's going to want to work with you, just because they get overwhelmed with all this information. And if it's not, glaringly better as far as an upgrade or an enhancement, then it's not going to resonate with them as a compelling reason to move forward. So if your product is cheaper, that's good. It's called cost leadership. That means that is a valid reason for someone to think, hey, I need to work with you rather than your competitor because you're cheaper. Differentiation. So if you have something that's better than everybody else for whatever reason, upgraded, whatever, that's also another reason, another way to answer this question. And really, those two things are the most powerful, answers to why your product or service rather than your competitors. And the last why is basically why should they spend the money, right? And this sort of has a little bit of overlap as well with number two of why move forward today and rather than wait. Why spend the money is sort of, again, touching on the desire gain, fear of loss. So fear of loss is really powerful because people would rather not lose something than gain something. So if you can incorporate fear of loss into your sales presentation, it's very powerful, and it's going to answer this question for your buyer, as well as help you answer why number two, which is why move forward today rather than later. Because normally, if there's a fear of loss, if there's a chance that they could miss out on something, if they wait, that's fear of loss still, but it's answering why move forward now rather than why spend the money. So fear of loss when it comes to why spend the money is, if you don't uh, work with us, then you're going to lose out on all these services that we offer. You're not going to get, our top of the line product, stuff like that. So it's more geared toward spending money rather than moving forward today. So those are the six whys of a sales presentation, and walking through each of those steps in your sales presentation is going to help your buyer move towards saying yes at the end. Um, because this is just my opinion, but the close, what a lot of people call the close at the end of a sales presentation, is bogus. Um, there's no such thing as the close. Usually people are like, they think that they have to go in, small talk for a little bit, jump into their presentation, and then move into the close, right? They think that there's this like step process, and then the close is like the big moment where they have to shift their attention to, you know, get handling all these objections and all this other stuff. If you do a sales presentation right, there's not even going to be a close. They're just going to be ready to buy, right? So the close is, I think, the close is very, it's an overused term, and I don't think it's, you know, I guess in every situation is different too, and everyone is going to have a different opinion on this, but I think the close is a bogus term. I don't think you should focus on closing somebody. I think you should focus on answering the six whys for them, and this is going to help you get the sale and close anyways, because you're helping them move in their brain, you're helping them move towards a buying decision by answering these six whys for them in your sales presentation. And this also helps you not seem quite as salesy too, uh, because you're basically closing them with throughout your sales presentation rather than presenting to them and then transitioning in the close and saying, so are you ready to buy? you know that makes you sound more salesy. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to ask for the sale eventually, um, but that does make you sound more salesy than if you were to just explain your product or service and answer the six whys for your customer or your potential customer within your presentation, and then by the time they get to the end, they're like, okay, where do I sign up? Right? Then it doesn't seem like you're being a salesman. It seems like you're there, you're helping them out, and they will appreciate that more. And they will be more likely to stay with you for the long term because they didn't feel pressured to buy. They didn't, you know, you didn't have to run them through the ringer and do something fancy with, some objection handling process to make them, back them into a yes or whatever the case may be. You didn't have to do any of that. You just answered the six whys and they were ready to buy. And that does happen. There have been times in the past, and I was thinking about this. This is why I made this video. Every time I've closed a sale in the past, it was because all of these six whys were answered as I was talking to that person going through my presentation. I didn't realize it at the time, but these whys had been answered as I was talking to them because just the way that the product that I was selling is set up, it really did the selling for me, which is excellent. But if you don't have that luxury, you're gonna have to put something together yourself to get these six whys answered in order to get a sale. Because, as I mentioned before, if one of these six whys isn't fully answered in your buyer's mind, that's going to become an objection. You're going to ask them for the sale, and they're going to come up with something and say no. And, uh, you know, the reason why they're saying no is because one of these six whys wasn't answered every single time. So uh, use these six whys, and you will have more success as a salesperson. So that's really all I had for this video. I will try to keep these videos coming every single day, but as things speed up a little bit on my end, that might not happen. So uh, stay tuned, and we'll try and get more videos out here in the future.